For those of you who think that President Trump's executive order banning refugees from coming into the United States is not normal, I hate to tell you, but it is. I don't like it any more than you do. But in 2011, just 5 years ago, Obama's State Department banned refugees from Iraq for 6 months. Trump's order is only for 3 months. Obama's ban was for twice as long. And the reason why he did it was because in 2009, the FBI found that 2 terrorists linked to Al-Qaeda were living in Bowling Green, Kentucky, as war refugees, who admitted that they'd attacked U.S. soldiers in Iraq. After the FBI found that out, they did an investigation which led them to conclude that dozens of suspected terrorists had mistakenly been allowed to move to the U.S. as war refugees. When they came to that conclusion, that's when Obama's State Department issued their ban. After that, Homeland stepped up its vetting procedures, but the ban came first. So even though a refugee ban is horrible, it's not new. What's new is that now our president actually looks into a camera and tells you this is going on. Obama didn't do that. He buried the news, instead choosing to go on like Jimmy Fallon and do a lip sync contest or some other stupid song and dance to make you think everything was just okay. And even though it sounds nice when Hillary Clinton just tweeted about Trump's ban, this is not who we are, she more than anyone should know that this is who we are, because it was literally her State Department that issued the same kind of ban just a few years ago. So she's still trying to sell you a song and dance. Now, I'm not saying it's okay to ban refugees. It's a shame, obviously. People should be able to just go anywhere they want on the planet, freely. The whole idea of borders sucks in the first place, if you ask me. Especially if where you live is constantly being bombed for reasons that have nothing to do with you. And that's what we should really be talking about here. Not the fact that we're banning refugees, but that we're making them in the first place. Because it's our bombs that are raining down on those countries and making refugees in the first place. We dropped more than 20,000 bombs on them last year alone. In 1 year. People from Syria maybe don't want to live in Detroit as some big prize. They just want to go home. You want to protest something, protest the bombs, and let the refugees return to just being normal people again. Because when we drop so many bombs, what's normal is bound to get blown to bits.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me, and one of the generals called me in. He said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They've just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years. Starting with Iraq, and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
It isn't just about Syria, is it? It's also about Iraq. Which brings us to the other deranged narrative that's being promoted right now. That this chaos is unfolding because the US military withdrew prematurely in 2011. You see, Iraq is in ruins and unable to defend itself because the US military left the party too early. It's not because the Bush administration and the mainstream media convinced the public that Saddam had weapons of mass destruction and was planning to use them. No, and it's not because the US invaded Iraq under these false pretenses, disbanding the Iraqi army and police and reducing the country to rubble in an attempt to put down the resulting insurgency. No, it's because 8 years of military occupation wasn't enough. Those who fought there, it's a punch in the gut to see your sacrifice was for nothing. But the occupation of Iraq was never going to end well.
Do you think that the U.S. or UN forces should have moved into Baghdad?
No.
Why not?
Because if we'd gone to Baghdad, we would have been all alone. There wouldn't have been anybody else with us. It would have been a U.S. occupation of Iraq. None of the Arab forces that were willing to fight with us in Kuwait were willing to invade Iraq. Once you got to Iraq and took it over and took down Saddam Hussein's government, then what are you going to put in its place?
Now you'll notice that the talking heads of the left and the right are both trying to frame this crisis as the fault of the other side. They're both right. Both sides of the aisle have blood on their hands, and this goes way beyond Bush and Obama. The United States has been tinkering in Iraq for a long, long time. In fact, it was the CIA that put Saddam in power in 1963. Don't take my word for it. Go read this article from the New York Times. The US government also backed Saddam in 1980 when he launched a war of aggression against Iran, even though they knew he was using chemical weapons. But again, don't take my word for it. Go read this article by Foreign Policy magazine. Fast forward to 1990. Saddam Hussein was embroiled with Kuwait over oil prices and borders, and he was preparing to take action. Given America's support in the war against Iran, Saddam had no reason to believe that Kuwait would be any different. But just to be sure, he decided to consult with Washington first. On July 25th of 1990, U.S. Ambassador to Iraq, April Glaspie, met with Saddam Hussein. In the meeting, Saddam described his case against Kuwait and told Glaspie that he viewed their activities as an act of military aggression. Glaspie responded by saying, quote, "We have no opinion on Arab-Arab conflicts like your border disagreement with Kuwait." And she reinforced this by saying, "This issue is not associated with America." Naturally, Saddam interpreted this as a green light. And 8 days later, he invaded. Later, when questioned in hearings, Glaspie claimed that though this quote was accurate, she had followed it up by insisting that Iraq settle its dispute nonviolently.
Did you say we have no opinion on the Arab-Arab conflicts, like your border disagreement with Kuwait?
Yes, that was one part of my sentence. The other part of my sentence was, but we insist that you settle your disputes with Kuwait non-violently.
However, that's not what shows up in the transcripts of the conversation released by the New York Times. According to the transcript, what she actually said was, "All that we hope is that these issues are solved quickly." But maybe this was just an innocent diplomatic blunder, right? Well, not quite. As soon as Saddam entered Kuwait, the US government launched a very interesting propaganda campaign to build up public support for a war. They claimed that Iraqi troops were slaughtering little babies by throwing them out of their incubators in hospitals. And they brought in teary-eyed witnesses who testified to having seen the massacres.
While I was there, I saw the Iraqi soldiers coming to the hospital with guns. They took the babies out of the incubators. Took the incubators and left the children to die on the cold floor.
I myself buried 40 newborn babies that had been taken from their incubators.
Kids in incubators, and they were thrown out of the incubators so that Kuwait could be systematically dismantled.
Just one little problem. The entire event was fabricated. It never happened. This woman who presented herself as a witness was actually the daughter of the Kuwaiti ambassador to the United States, and her testimony was part of a public relations campaign organized by a company called Hill and Knowlton. Once public support for the war was strong, the incubator story was dropped, never mentioned again.
Huckabee talks about honor. Honor? Are you kidding me? You saying that it's an honor to die in Iraq and to fight a war that we started and we're in the wrong.
My name is Daryl Anderson. I served in Baghdad, Iraq from January 04 to July 04.
Good afternoon. My name is John Michael Turner. I currently reside in Burlington, Vermont. I served with Kilo Company, 3rd Battalion, 8th Marines as an automatic machine gunner.
When are we going to realize that people fighting in Iraq against us, they're not terrorists, they're soldiers. What we do if somebody invaded us? I know I will pick up my weapon and fight against them. What the hell we call them? Terrorists? These people want their country back. You're going to tell me that it's an honor to serve in Iraq when private contractors get paid $100,000 plus and drive $60,000 vehicles inside the base while soldiers are outside the base rolling and patrolling and losing their lives.
In Desert Storm, we couldn't get into Baghdad because the people heard about the innocent people we killed in the bombings.
I'm outraged at what is going on. Again, they're using this idea of patriotism and honor. That's bullshit.
Now, 3,000 Americans are dead. We don't care how many Iraqis you got to kill. Killing the civilians is part of war.
That's bullshit. How about sending home the soldiers with their lives? Sending the soldiers home with honor.
And that's what they sent us into Baghdad with. I joined in 03 because I was broke, I needed money, but I was a young American kid. I wanted to fight in the war.
So we're fighting in Iraq for honor? What happened to fighting for freedom and democracy? I'm just amazed.
And I get there, and the guys that I'm serving with have been there for 6 months already. They were there in 03. And I go, well, you know, I think it's come out that, you know, these people had nothing to do with 9/11. There was no Iraqi on those planes.
The soldiers want to send the message that we need to let them win the war.
We can see around here there's no Al-Qaeda, there's no terrorist syndicates in Baghdad or Iraq. Saddam had stamped them out. And I asked my buddies, well, you know, we're here to find weapons of mass destruction. And they laughed at me. And I said, well, you know, we're here to help the people. And they laughed at me.
He said, the soldier's message is, let us win the war, and everybody cheers.
And I said, well, what's our mission? What's our goal? I thought we were going to find the people that did 9/11. I thought we were going to get these weapons of mass destruction. I thought we were going to help people. And they're like, all we're trying to do is make it home alive. And in April of 04, we lost 135 soldiers.
70% of the people are against the war. 70% of Americans have been against the war for a long time.
Which leads into escalation. 9/11, we can go kill people now. We lost 135 guys. We can kill people now. In April, they told us, in a crowded area, if one person shoots at you, kill everybody.
Whole thing going in front of the courts at the moment about whether these immigration restrictions are constitutional or not. Although the president has a very wide latitude to restrict immigration for security concerns, it is before the law, and we'll see how that plays out. But here's the whole issue, and I made this case with regards to Europe quite some time ago. Look, if you're at war with a country, if you're physically attacking that country, you cannot, why this even needs to be, you cannot take endless amounts of young military-age men from countries you're currently at war with. You know, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, while at war with Japan, did not take massive amounts of young military-age Japanese men to come into America. In fact, he took a lot of Japanese and put them in internment camps. I'm not saying that was right, I'm just saying you can't do it. Churchill didn't say, hey, you know what we really need to do? Open up a lot of immigration to young military-age German men while we're at war with Germany. It's just not done. And this is part of the whole denial that is occurring. And it occurred because there was a Democrat in the White House, and the anti-war movement vaporized, vanished. Not even nuclear shadows left behind. The moment that Obama stepped through the doors of the White House, they scattered like startled crows. And so, for a lot of young people in particular, if you were 10 when Barack Obama got into power, you were 18 when he left. So for a lot of people, this cover-up of America's attacks on foreign countries has created this blind spot wherein people can't understand why. Why wouldn't you want to take young military-age men, or anyone for that matter, from countries that you're bombing and attacking and drone striking? I mean, Obama dropped 100,000 bombs, almost exclusively on these Muslim countries. in his presidency. 100,000 bombs. Now, that's just the official record. It turns out that the database of attacks seems to have been left somewhat incomplete. So this is the reality. America is attacking these countries in the Middle East, dropping tens of thousands of bombs a year in this. And yes, this has created horrible destabilizations, and I've argued against the brutality of these attacks since even before Barack Obama got into power. So that to me is not a left-right thing. But these are the consequences of war. I don't care if it's declared, I don't care. If you're bombing countries with 100,000 bombs over an 8-year period, you're waging war. And these are the consequences of war. And the reason why people are having such a tough time processing all of this, the immigration restrictions and so on, is because, I have sympathy for the refugees. I really, really do. I mean, you can help more than 12 of them in the Middle East, settle in the Middle East, rather than bringing just one over, right? So it's 12 to 1. You can have 12 times as many refugees settling in the Middle East and bringing them into the West. So if you really want to help them, you settle in the Middle East and help them that way. But this is the reality. Because the war has been hidden from the American public, these endless bombings, drone strikes, attacks, destabilizations, regime changes, overthrows, all of the stuff that's been happening in these countries. Because it's kind of been hidden, because it was being done by a Democrat, and you've got a largely Democrat media, it was kind of hidden. So people are like, where's this coming from? Where is this coming from? No. 6 of the 7 countries temporarily banned, been directly bombed and attacked. The other one has been somewhat destabilized, brutalized. And this is just astounding. But people don't remember this. Like, you may ignore or dislike the fact that America's at war, but I think that the kind of information that's available to Donald Trump and to the chiefs of staff and so on, probably a little bit more than you and I can get our hands on. So they have information about what's happening. You bomb people, and you're at war with them.